Welcome back, beautiful people. I am Braden. This guy next to me, his name is Tim, and this is The Second Legacy, and thank you for stopping by. Today, we have got so much stuff to wrap up on a Friday. You guys might be seeing it on a Saturday, but this is a way to wrap it up. We've got bills that are going to strip you of your driver's license just because you're a gun owner in Illinois because they angry. Then we got appeals court in Maryland coming forward for licensing for gun ownership, and then we have a G3, which is never going to disappoint, because Tim put it together. So it's going to be amazing, and thank you guys so much for checking it out. Of course, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. With that, Tim, the filming is Friday. They may see it on Saturday, but how are you doing either day?
Friday, Saturday, it's all the same. We're heading into the weekend. SHOT Show's just around the corner. We're going to get together and hang out and do some Second Legacy work together. It's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to this month.
It's going to be a great time. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be great. I'm really excited about SHOT Show, but that's a different thing for a different time. Because we got to talk about some driver's license revocations, Tim. Because it's the end of the week. We owe it to the people of the Second Legacy to dive right in, just elbow deep.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about this, Tim? We're going to lose driver's licenses if your FOID card expires. You think I'm just making that up?
No.
Fact or fiction?
I'm going to go with fact because I used to live in that cesspool. I made the mistake of moving there in the 90s, not knowing what the gun laws were in Illinois. And back in the 90s, they weren't anything like they are now, but they were still bad. And they had the FOID card system. And I'll never forget my first run in with that. So, one of the reasons I left Illinois was because of their worsening gun laws. And I left Illinois over 20 years ago, man, like 25 years ago. And,
nice.
It was getting bad then. I remember stories of Chicago had a CAGE unit, and it was an acronym for basically the Chicago City Proper Anti-Gun Police Unit that went around enforcing FOID laws and stuff like that, right? And so they were saying that they were going to send CAGE outside of the city limits where they technically had no jurisdiction. Which is, you can argue one way or the other, because like in Indiana, a police officer in a city has police powers within the entire state. And I think that's what they're playing on. But anyway, they were sending the CAGE unit out into Cook County because Cook County had an assault weapons ban back then. That was just it was ignored. Every gun store sold assault weapons and everybody owned assault weapons, including myself who lived in Cook County.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was just unenforced and ignored, just like today.
Weird. That's almost like there's a tie-in. Right. That's weird. Oh man. Well, I have a hunch as to where this is coming from, but let me show the people, the beautiful people, the Second Legacy, what's going on here. Dr. Button Pusher, this is number one. See, Tim, look, it's for common sense for the children. We have Illinois Senate Bill 2720, introduced on January 10, 2024. Okay. Well, that sounds innocuous enough, right? Well, unless you look at this little part right here, which is the bill description, amends the Illinois Vehicle Code, provides that the Secretary of State may not issue to or allow the renewal or retention of a driver's license or permit by anyone who possesses a revoked firearms owner identification card.
A revoked card. So if you get your card revoked, you get your license revoked too? What's that mean?
No, that's exactly what it means. Allow me to elaborate.
Okay.
That was a good lead in. I appreciate that.
Doing my best crime junkie over here.
Subpoint. You're doing great. You're doing great.
Okay.
You're doing great.
If you don't know the podcast, check it out.
The applicants. You should check it out. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I could play a nice Emily Flowers. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The applicant's firearm owner's identification card is successfully reinstated, or the applicant surrenders possession of the FOID card. It amends the Firearm Owner's Identification Card Act, provides that the Illinois State Police shall provide the Secretary with a notice of any individual who fails to surrender a revoked FOID card.
Now,
so it can revoke or it can expire.
So if it expires, no license for you. If revoked, correct, no license for you unless you come to the courthouse and surrender your FOID card. But in doing so, you're self-incriminating, because if you have a FOID card, you probably have a firearm. And so what they're doing is forcing you to come down to a public building where there's law enforcement to surrender your card. And the next question surely will be, thank you for the card, sir. Where are your guns?
Isn't that odd?
Because you can't have guns without this card.
You can't have those guns.
Yeah.
If you don't have the FOID. Yeah. There's lots of worms to this can, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw a hypothetical, because you just nailed something that was, I think that is a very good point to say. I kind of naturally gravitated to the red flag law problem, because red flag laws to me are the bane of existence. So I'm completely biased against them. To me, I'm completely fair. But if someone falsely accuses you of something and there is a hearing on you, a red flag hearing, without you knowing, which is ex parte, so you don't even get to know you're being challenged, the police show up, take your FOID card, take your guns, and if they don't take your FOID card, then you lose your license, like your actual driving license.
Yeah.
Y'all.
This is just pure vindictiveness against the gun community.
That sounds familiar, doesn't it? It sounds almost like 1% or 2%. You really thought it was going to work, but it didn't. So now you got egg on your face. So you got to punish everybody in Illinois. This is punitive. This is directly punitive.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, this is so typical of something they would try. And if you think about this one, this is a little tougher for it to work its way through the federal courts, right? This is going to be stuck in Illinois courts, most likely. It'll probably be decided in Illinois courts if it ever gets challenged. And, those courts lean left, right? So it would take the SCOTUS getting involved, which I highly doubt they would, to resolve this.
I don't know.
Maybe not. We'll see. You never know what the SCOTUS is going to do.
I don't know. So
they've been getting inundated with gun
correct.
cases right now, and they take such a small percentage of the cases. I think the whole goal.
So
of
really,
this
the solution
is to slide this under the radar. I think it really is.
No. Well, it didn't work because the people on the second legacy now know about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so
it's no longer under the radar.
Now we will spread it far and wide. It is no longer under the radar. It is right on the middle of the radar.
It's a big bleep.
You know I like coffee when I watch my radar. Name that movie in the comments. But yeah, the big thing for me on this is you got mad because no one listened to your edict around assault weapons ban, which probably impacts your ability to run for president because you're J.B. Pritzker. Other than the fact that you had no chance. But other than that little nougat, you come out and say you can't have a driver's license if someone takes your FOID card without you knowing. So you just can't drive around for up to 2 weeks is the minimum, roughly, from what I've seen on my research. Up to all the way a year is the maximum. So you're just not going to have a driver's license. You're just not going to be able to commute to work. Like, these people are vindictive. I mean, like, it is pure just vitriol, man.
Having lived in the People's Republic of Illinois, I would say a good number of folks I would meet at the firing range and at the gun store, stuff like that, had expired FOID cards, right? Because
don't say it.
Well, think of it this way. A FOID card is used to say your driver's license. And how many people accidentally let their driver's licenses expire? I have.
I've done it before.
You don't even realize it until 2 months later, like, oops, what have I done here? But if the state could pounce on you, like kick your door in and haul you off to jail because you're 2 days past your expiration date on your driver's license, that's a little bit authoritarian, don't you think? Well, FOID cards are no different. A little? Right? So FOID cards, people let them expire. It's not like the card beeps at you every 4 years. Beep, 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 beep. Renew me. And so it's easy to let that slip your mind. But now they're trying to pass a law that would quickly intervene and say, aha, FOID card, no longer valid.
Gotcha.
Quick. Now you get a notice in the mail. You have no driver's license. I can only imagine that what this would cost in terms of time and money to resolve in the courts. It's pure harassment. Because check this out.
It is.
If you have a FOID card and it's expired, okay, but you pass the background check and nothing pops in your criminal record to, otherwise decline your future application or renewal of said FOID card, then is there really a crime? It's just a simple matter of expired license, which is wholly unconstitutional. But anyway,
we're going to that next.
So,
we're going to that next.
It just seems so asinine to me. But it is Illinois, and this is what they do.
You know what? It is asinine. It is. There's 9 asses in this asinine.
Yeah,
it is asinine. There's 9 asses. You are correct. If you expand this out a little bit, think about an everyday individual like you or me, or like anybody, the everyday American that lives in Illinois. And it's the whole state, by the way. This is not just the city of Chicago. This is the entire state. If you're driving without a license and you didn't know your license was revoked or pulled or not renewed, you open yourself up to liability claims. If you're in an accident, you open yourself up to tickets. You open yourself up to all sorts of problems that are all stemming from these people's need for vengeance. It's just a very petulant, that's right, petulant word, petulant action, and it seems very unenforceable. And to your point about the SCOTUS and all that stuff, New York, the Sullivan Law, the one that struck down, that was the impetus for the Bruin decision, that was also just a state law too.
Oh, I know. I know they can originate, obviously, as state laws, obviously. I mean, we've talked about SCOTUS dealing with state laws all the time. What I'm saying is this seems like the SCOTUS may not pay so much attention to this one, right? We don't know. I mean, maybe they will. But like I said, they've been inundated with firearms cases lately, and they take so few cases. So...
No, they do. They take like 3% of cases there that are submitted to them. Yeah. So I think what I just heard you say was, by simple math, we just need to send more cases and we'll get more accepted. It's just
pretty much,
so easy.
Overwhelm them with court cases.
Just pump the system.
But you know what happens in most states when your driver's license expires, you do get pulled over and get caught with an expired driver's license. You'll get a summons. You'll go to court.
Warning.
And you'll get a warning. The judge will say, well, did you renew the driver's license? Yes, Your Honor, I did. Okay, dismissed. Right? That's how it's generally handled. It's not like some major crime, but yet if your FOID card expires, now we're going to not only take your right to own a gun away from you, now we're going to take away your right to drive, or privilege, I guess, to drive, because there's no constitution.
It's just messed up.
But, they treat a privilege less severely than they do a right. Right. So they're going to come down like a hammer on a right, side, but on a privilege, we got a little bit of wiggle room here.
It happens. Yeah. And the thing that really gets me on this, and this is something that I've never really understood why this is allowed nationally, the idea to have a license in front of a right.
Wrong.
It just on the very base level, it does not make sense. Like, if you think about it, and we said this in yesterday's episode, if you think about your freedom of speech, or if you think about your right to vote, or you think about any of the other rights that are core in our Bill of Rights, I mean, like, it would be unconscionable to think about putting a license in front of any of those.
Right.
But you put a license in front of a Second Amendment, it's for safety and for common sense and for the children. Right. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, how does that stand when it's like, there's a common sense, or there's an obligation of balancing between the population and the rights. Well, actually, not anymore. And I question if that was even originally a good idea. But I don't know.
I would say that a license is nasty on two fronts. First of all, you have to seek permission from the state to own a firearm, which clearly is a violation of the Second Amendment. So you have that aspect of a license. And then you have the fact that licenses generally aren't free. You have to pay. Right. So now it's Correct. A tax. And so you have the affront to the Constitution just on the fact that you have to seek the state's approval to exercise your rights, which they can deny for any number of reasons. And then you have the tax aspect of it. So it is doubly offensive. And maybe on those grounds, the Supreme Court might hear something to stop these licensing schemes and tax schemes across the nation. I would love to see that. So who knows? But yeah.
Well, Tim, like always, and even on Fridays on your way out, when you've tapped your energy level, you still set us up for the next segment like a champion.
It's so funny.
You are.
I can't wait to read this
all
one.
the time.
It's funny.
I
don't read these.
You just know.
I don't read these. Let's see what.
No, he doesn't know the order I lay out. It keeps a level of flexibility and originality to our delivery. But yeah, here it is, number 3. Federal Appeals Court grants petition for full court to consider Maryland gun law. The 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals has granted Maryland's petition for the full court to consider the state's handgun licensing law.
There we go.
That was struck down in November. Man,
there we go.
You deserve a slow clap, or you need something, because I love when you do that. But yeah, so funny how you mentioned handgun licensure. So you need a license in Maryland, and it's going to the 4th Circuit. Why didn't it go to the 4th Circuit in Illinois? It's the same principle.
Right. Well, we'll see.
I got nothing. Well, listen to this. So again, and this is why I get really excited about this kind of stuff, because I say on my channel all the time, it works its way up in a triangle. And the SCOTUS is obviously at the top. Listen to this, what they're trying to do, and we can kind of extrapolate the potentials here. This is in Baltimore. This is number 4, Doctor. The 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals has granted a Maryland's petition for the full court to consider the state's handgun licensing law that was struck down in November by a 3-judge panel. Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown said Thursday, quote, the 3-judge panel ruled 2-1 that Maryland's law requiring most citizens to obtain a license before acquiring a handgun was unconstitutional. Yep. So this is the interesting part. Maryland, Tim, requested this of the full court, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So And that's why this is so fascinating, because at the same time we're talking about the FOID and them leveraging the ability of FOIDs to impact your driver's licenses. You're talking about in Maryland, the 4th Circuit now going full court. The only thing above that is the SCOTUS. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. It is a big deal. It is a big deal.
And yes,
and just going back to the whole licensing scheme in the previous segment, what really drives me nuts about that is your FOID card expires, they yank your driver's license. They've now crippled your ability to even earn a living. I mean,
right.
They're trying to destroy you as a gun owner. I mean, it's like saying we're going to revoke your home mortgage and put you on the street. Yeah. We're going to take your driver's license. You can't go to work. You know what I mean? It's like, that's just vicious. Anyway.
Right. Well, but no, but it's totally true. Like, I mean, how far of a step is it to say that, hey, your FOID lapsed, so now you can't do any banking within the state of Illinois.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how far of a reach is that? Honestly.
No, I mean, they've proposed some plots and plans like that in various states, where they try to tie gun ownership to some other function of society, like banking, or in this case, driver's licenses, tax schemes on ammunition. Yeah. They go everywhere they possibly can to pull this stuff off.
Oh, they 100% do.
And they're going to focus on this more going forward. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. They are going to focus on it more going forward. And I mentioned this, and we talk about this a lot on this channel. It's funny how it always keeps on interweaving into our points. They are running out, just my observation, tell me if I'm wrong, but they're running out of the periphery where they're trying to nibble at the edges. Like, for example, they'll say something mundane in their opinion, like, you can't have a gun in the car. You can have it in the trunk, but you have to have discipline. We're not infringing on your rights to have a Second Amendment. We're just making it really inconvenient. Then they'll go down the road of, well, you've got to pay for your fingerprinting, right. And all the ways of gun control that are very subtle and very hard to challenge. They've run out of those. Now they're going straight after, well, we want the licensing law, so we're going to take that to the circuit court. You can't have a driver's license. You have an FOID. You can't have mag bands, you can't have high capacity magazines, AR bands. You can't have any of those things. In fact, we can't even sell them in the state anymore. And if you don't comply, we're going to have even more punitive legislation coming out. It's just, they're getting to the point where they're getting more and more aggressive.
But from, as President Bush would say, a strategery perspective, this is something that we've seen Newtown and Giffords and those clowns talk about. They've talked about their great successes in the state. They were boasting about it around the first of the year. Like, look at all the great things we did in 23 at the state level, and they've made it known, and we've caught them doing it. And then, months later, they admitted to the new strategy. They know that they can't get anywhere legislatively at the federal level, so now they're refocusing their efforts on the states, because that divide and conquers the pro-2A groups like GOA, NRA, FPC, SAF, because they can all easily fight at the federal level because it's consolidated into one area, the federal government. But when it goes out to 50 states, now you have to have attorneys in all 50 states. You have to you split your resources, your financial resources, to fight all these individual laws in all 50 states. It is a strategy that is designed not only to deny you your rights at the state level, but to do so in such a way that the gun rights groups out there don't have the resources to fight on your behalf. It is.
Well, yeah, it's a battle of attrition.
Yes, it absolutely is. So this is where they're going.
But little do they know the things that are coming. But you are correct. Little do they know. They have kicked over a hornet's nest.
Well, the gun rights groups will evolve too.
Sorry.
It'll evolve.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. They don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
Right. They don't know what's coming. The big thing that I want, kind of jumping back over to Maryland real quick. Great points, by the way. And I think those are all very valid. The thing about this Maryland potential ruling, they lost at a small judge panel, right? Maryland did, for the putting the rights behind a license. Okay. Well, if you lost there and you push it to the Fourth Circuit Court, let's game this out for a second. If the Fourth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals says, it is unconstitutional. If you're the Attorney General of Maryland and you're from a gun control state, what do? Well,
you have to go to the full court. If you're doing an en banc panel review, then you go to the next full court, right? That's what happened to us.
Well, but there is no next full court's the SCOTUS.
Oh yeah, after you get past, I thought we were talking about the en banc review of the panel, which is just a small segment of the judges. That's what happened to us in the bump stock case, right? Now we wanted the en banc review, and then the ATF took it to a full court decision, and we lost there.
Right.
And
now it's going to SCOTUS.
Right, and now it goes to SCOTUS.
Which is exactly my point. So Fourth U.S. Circuit Court, like if it's going there, which they've already accepted it, that's the news that we're talking about. They accept that. There's only two options if you get an unconstitutional ruling. And this is why I'm laying this out for a reason. Let's say the Attorney General gets that unconstitutional ruling. Well, now he either has to accept the fact that the licensure has to go away, which has ramifications across the nation for other states, or he has to appeal to a Supreme Court that is a little bit more leaning to originalist interpretation of the Constitution versus a progressive interpretation. That's not a good place if you're the Attorney General of Maryland.
Yeah.
I mean,
this isn't the time to be bringing those cases. But go ahead, please do, because it helps us. So
exactly, it's like they had to go to the full court, but they're running a gamble. Now let's play the other side. Let's say that they get a constitutional ruling at the Fourth U.S. Circuit. Well, now you've set up the gun rights activists to go directly to SCOTUS, and it's a favoring of their originalist interpretations. I mean, I'm just like, man, this is becoming a thing, Tim.
Yeah. And whether or not the SCOTUS would hear the case, once again, we don't know. They might wait and see what other states do and other circuit courts do to see if there's a conflict, and then that's when they'll get involved. So it's kind of a messy process trying to get things into the SCOTUS. Oh, yeah. It's not a sure thing. It's always it's a challenge.
No, I know a lot of people in the Second Legacy and other channels, they just want to get it done with. It just takes time. I mean, it is meant to take time and burn and slow burn. But that's okay, because we've got stamina. It's all right. We're good. We got this. And speaking of stamina, is it G3 time?
I think it is.
Is it time to? I think it is. Well, take it away, sir.
This is one of my favorite things to talk about, because the dishonesty of the gun grabbers is just epic, right? How many times have you heard a gun grabber say, we don't want to ban guns. We just want common sense gun laws. We want safety laws. Yeah. And they constantly...
It's for the children.
What's that?
It's for the children.
It's for the children. It's always for the children, But they're always out there trying to convince you, we're not really coming for your guns. We just want common sense safety. Well, when you press them and say, well, what is that common sense safety? They have a very difficult time answering. They might go off on a tangent about restraining orders and red flag laws, or, whatever, Ethan's Law type stuff, mandatory locking up your gun type stuff. But it's all incrementalism, because they know none of that works. We have 20,000 laws on the books, folks, nationally. And yet we still have people misusing firearms. The reality is people always have accidents and people always misuse things. So this notion that you can just make safety a thing is a complete lie, because safety isn't their goal. What their end goal is just to take them all away. But so they'll go out there and they'll say things like, look, it's so dishonest of the Republicans to say the Democrats want to take your guns away. It's just not true. Don't believe me, folks. If you would be so kind, Doc, we have a few of these. Number 7, and let's just kind of roll through these as we're having a conversation, 7, 8, and 9. These are various gun grabbers that I just pulled randomly off X, making the statement. Here's 42X, all right? They say, misleading and misrepresenting. Democrats don't want to ban guns. They want to ban certain guns like assault rifles. They want more strict background checks. They want harsher penalties for gun law violations, but they don't want to ban guns. Well, I hate to break it to you, sweetheart, but banning assault weapons is banning guns.
And that is actually it by definition.
Right. And then if we go over to number 8, here we have another gun grabber saying Democrats don't want to ban all guns the way Republicans want to ban all abortions. Okay. They always got to throw that in there, right?
What?
Which I thought it was for the children and the safety of the children. And never mind.
Well, those aren't children yet.
Oh, it's a clump of cells. So anyway,
exactly.
That's false equivalency. Glad we're back on familiar footing. You threw me for a loop for a second. They're having a conversation about gun banning, right? So once again, claiming
of course.
It's a lie. The Republicans are just trying to mislead you. It's not like what they've done to abortion. We don't want to do that to your guns. We just want common sense safety gun laws. It's for the children. And then we have old Johnny over here. Last at number 9, Democrats don't want to ban guns. Don't spread false information. Okay. Challenge accepted. So Gabby Giffords, we know her. She is the impetus behind Giffords.org, which is an anti-gun group. They advocate for all sorts of anti-gun laws nationwide. And so Gifford actually did an interview with Time Magazine. If we could throw up number 11, Doc. This is from Time Magazine in a conversation, and I've highlighted the relevant point. We'll jump right to the end where they're talking about...
This was last year, I think.
Yeah, this is recent. And so, but Gifford's just clear about what she's saying. No, she says. Lord, no. She pauses after 32 seconds. Guns, guns, guns. No more guns. Gone. So in a conversation... on what guns to allow, basically, and what laws to go for, she basically says, look, no, guns, 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 no more guns, gone. What does that mean? Sounds like a ban to me, folks.
Sounds like a complete withdrawal of all Second Amendment rights across the entire nation, because no more guns gone.
Right. This is one of the largest gun-grabbing groups out there that paints itself as some sort of a safety organization, and the founder said the quiet part out loud once again.
By the way, did you see all of the Did you see that whole thing where her handler, who was right next to her, was like, "Well, let me clarify. Like what she means there is."
I know, right? Because damage control. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you get them riled up and they'll say what they're really thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what?
And then we have the illustrious.
Yes, we have one more. Let's talk about a classic gun grabber. This goes all the way back to the 90s, folks. Cue up number 10 for us, Doc.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that. The votes weren't here.
So what she's talking about are guns, even though she doesn't say guns in that soundbite. She's talking about a gun ban. And so there she said the quiet part out loud. This went wild back in the 90s when this interview was done. People were like, oh, you said it. You said it. And so this just shows that 30 some years ago, this was their goal. 30 some years later, 40 some years later, it's still their goal. It's not changed. They're doing it through incrementalism. And once they pass one law that does nothing, they'll say, well, we tried that. We need to make that law a little bit more effective. They go the next step, the next step, the next step. Next thing you know, we have Australian and UK style laws and bans. But have they stopped in Australia and UK with the banning of everything under the sun, including kitchen knives? They have not. Incrementalism.
Yeah, now they're trying in Britain. They're trying to outlaw the carrying of knives because there's no reason you would ever need a knife longer than 4 inches.
Now, I had somebody.
Does that sound familiar?
I had somebody from the UK when I was in Germany at a gun show, a trade show in Germany, and one of the UK citizens that was pro-gun came up to me and said, "It's gotten ridiculous in the UK. If you go and buy kitchen knives, you cannot take them out of the vehicle. You have to take the kitchen knife from IKEA straight to your car, put it in the trunk, drive straight home. Cannot be within reach of the driver. Take it out and take it straight in your house. If you go anywhere, stop for gas, anything, the police can arrest you." I'm like, "You're kidding me." And this is what the person told me. Whether or not it's true, I don't know. But that makes sense to me because that is the level of crazy they're doing. If you take a look at Australia, they've banned all sorts of firearms. And the U.S. gun grabbers want to hold up Australia as some glowing example of what we should mimic here in the United States. And guess what was in the news just recently? They're not content with their gun bans that currently exist. Now they're going after pump action rifles, talking about their rapid fire weapons. Why? They're not content with safety, folks, or minimalistic bans. They want them all.
Yeah, they want them all. They want to live in a utopian where the government is the central source of power, but that's a different thing for a different time.
It is. Don't believe the liars.
Legitimately, it's insane, man. When you look at all of these things, if you can't see the incrementalism that they're putting forward and the monster that they're building piece by piece, watch gun channels a lot more often. Certain ones, specific ones, but literally we lay it out with their own words, their own actions, that before you know it, they're taking your driver's licenses. I mean, it does not stop. It is slow cook that frog until there's nothing left.
Yep.
And that is well documented.
Yep.
Well documented.
And it's also designed not just to punish those that have FOID cards, it's also to discourage those that would seek one. Because they'll look at what it could mean. It's like, wow, man, if this thing expires, I could lose my driver's license. Just screw it. It's not worth it. It's meant to not only to prevent you from exercising your rights if you're a current gun owner, it's also to discourage future gun owners from exercising those rights. All right, so
I believe they call that the chilling effect in the business.
Absolutely, it is the chilling effect. All right, folks, we hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week. Until then, we'll talk to you soon.